We're going to be discussing debt slavery, and this is a synopsis of why I feel that our currency is not only a debt currency, but it is also a debt slave currency. We are debt slaves. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add to what's printed on the page. Occasionally I'll read what's on the page, but it's already written down, so you don't need me to read it. The point here is that there are a couple of websites. There are much more than these two, but these two I particularly like. Money is Debt and Money Masters. If you want, you can stop the video and you can write down the actual websites to these videos and then view them in much greater detail. The big thing here is that it's a joke to me that economists talk about all these factors that affect it like they know something. And you know what, sure, what they're discussing is very complicated and technical, but the point is they don't know what causes inflation. And if they did, they're either complicit in a fraud and conspiracy to conceal it, or they would be on the rooftops and soapboxes decrying how bad this situation is, this currency system is. If anybody really understood it, they wouldn't be supporting it, and I hope that by the end of this video that you won't support it either. All money is borrowed into existence. All your promissory notes that you sign is what actually creates the money. The bank isn't giving you something that it has in its reserves. The idea of fractional reserve banking is passé, or the banks don't use that anymore. They will actually create the money that you're borrowing. The big thing here is that the banks don't create the interest when they loan you the money. They create the loan and they charge you interest. Now, if all the money that's available was the money that was borrowed, think about this. If all the money that's available is money that was borrowed, all the money in creation was borrowed, then if everybody paid back what the banks created, there would still be interest because the interest wasn't created. So how can you pay off interest when it wasn't created? If everybody paid off their loans tomorrow, there would be no money. Yet there would still be an interest bubble or debt bubble. And that debt bubble grows and grows. It never recedes. There is no other source of inflation. And you really need to wrap your mind around that. Inflation is what's killing us. You know what, when we started this whole system, it was no big deal because the debt bubble was so small. And the more people that there are, you know, borrowing and buying things, borrowing money, buying real estate, etc., the bigger the debt bubble can get without it causing too much of a problem. Unfortunately now, our debt bubble is so large that we have to deal with it. It's going to bust. And if it busts, then our financial system crashes. And I believe that it was designed to do that. Once our currency bubble crashes, what they're going to do is attempt to introduce a new world currency. There are other solutions, and we'll get to them. Banks, they manipulate our economy, and they do so largely by the use of interest. There are other factors, and I'm not going to get into them, but interest is the big one. And when they want to increase the money flow, they lower the interest rates, more people make money. They make it easy. In a deflationary period, the banks will cause the interest rates to rise so that people are making less and less loans, so that there's a money shortage. So once there's a money shortage, that means that people can't pay their dues. Remember, there's not enough money to go around in the first place. And when you add to the fact that people are hoarding money, you know, your savings accounts, you're taking money out of the system every time you buy an RRSP or whatever it is that you're going to invest your money in, all that money is taken out of the system, which further exacerbates our problem. Now you've got so many people trying to pay off their loans because the banks are calling them in. There's a shortage of cash now, and you know, we all got on this stampede to borrow money, and And some of us are falling off the cliff. There's just nowhere for us to go. And that's the way the system was designed. It was designed so that people would fail, which is pathetically sickening to me. Now, when they want the recession to be over, they print more money, the economy recovers. We just go on because we think that's the business cycle. Well, it's not a natural cycle. It's not a normal cycle. It is created, and it is created by the banks. Now, these guys don't carry this too far, because if they created a massive recession and they carried the recession too far, it would crash the system and it would end their game prematurely. They will crash the system, and they're going to do that soon. They're trying to do it right now with the bailouts. Let's not fall for this thing that we have to, by default, fall into another one of their traps. Our debt bubble can never be paid. It can never, ever, ever be paid. And in reality, it's a fraud. I mean, we weren't told what the cost of using this money. We weren't even given a choice. And our government was prevented, as well as all other governments, prevented from issuing sovereign currency. Now, when you consider the fact that not only are you borrowing money and incurring interest, even if you thought you were debt-free, you are not. Because your country pledged you as surety for a debt, for their debt. So in pledging you as surety, what that means is they had to claim you as their property. And they pledged you, because they can't pledge something that's not theirs. So you're their property. They made you property. You know, you might want to ask them how you consented to that, if they're claiming that you consented. You know, which ostensibly is the claim, but a judge will never answer that. How exactly did you consent? And if you denied consent, would they still force you to pay? You bet they will. You bet they will. There are plenty of people challenging the IRS and the Canada Revenue Agency. Plenty of people who are awake and who know what's going on, and yet if it goes to a court, you will be forced to pay. So you want to avoid the court at all costs. What we need to do is just replace that system. Stop giving it energy. So what they did is they created a blind adhesion contract. They made you liable for a debt that's not yours. All right, so if you think you're debt-free, you're not. You're liable for the debt of the nation, and they're going to tax you, and they'll tax you to death. People who live in Canada know what excessive taxing is. Yet, I'm appalled that we don't bitch any more than we do. We should be making a noise about this. Interestingly, in the law of nations, a people are deemed as consenting unless they are rising up. And so we need to rise up. We need to make some noise about this. Yeah, what they did was illegal, and really what we need to do is hold them accountable. That's another thing, too, that people don't understand, is that there is no accountability for these people. No accountability whatsoever. And we need to change that. We need to take control as a people of this country, and hold them accountable for their crimes. Now, this is a picture of Nathan Rothschild, who doesn't care who is on the throne of England. He doesn't care who makes the laws, because he controls the money supply. All right, so he's one of the big boys in the banking world. These people don't care. They don't care about people, and they don't care about countries or governments, and they don't care about laws, because they can choke governments out easily, because now they control the money. How that happened, how we all consented, and we didn't hunt these little fuckers down and kill them, I don't know. All right, I'll tone that down. So how these guys rose to power and we didn't hunt them down and hold them accountable for their crimes early on is beyond me. We allowed them to get where they are. And sure, they're here now, but we need to stop them now. Right now. All right, so under the current system, governments borrow money from the IMF or the World Bank or the Federal Reserve, and their interest rate is actually kind of difficult to find out. They don't tell us what it is. It's very high. So if your government wanted to borrow $10 billion to build something, at 29% interest, you're looking at about $12.9 billion to repay a $10 billion loan. That's in 1 year, if it was paid back in 1 year. Remember that the interest is not created, so that $2.9 billion was just added to the debt bubble. The situation you have in a recession is a shortage of cash to pay all loans to the private sector. So now to add insult onto injury, not only are you being taxed to pay for your government's loans, you have money being taken out of the system by, people investing in derivatives, etc., and people hoarding their money. I mean, it's everyone's right to save, and you're taught that's a good thing, and every time you use the dollar, you're really damaging the human condition. You're enslaving us further and further. The thing is that this system was created to fail. Every dollar that is used or loaned enslaves us further. Every time we use the money, we're digging our hole a little bit deeper, inflating that bubble just a little bit more. Fortunately, there is a way out of this. And if you think about it, I mean, what if? What if there was no shortages of money? What would we do? I mean, isn't that what we dream of? Let's think about it for a minute. What would our lives be like? Wouldn't we be able to take our children to do the things that we always wanted to do? Wouldn't we be able to, help other areas of the world? Like legitimately help them? Forget giving money to these aid organizations that give 10 cents on the dollar or less to the actual aid that you're giving money to. And then you've got the corruption of bureaucracy that's holding things back. So, geez, no, that's not an answer. And I think our families would be healthier, happier. Our children would be healthier, happier. And I think, we would give back to the earth, and we would do some pretty amazing things. And that the human condition would change, and that humanity would actually do some pretty awesome things. Right now, humanity is being blamed for all the atrocities going on, when in reality, it is the bankers who control everything, including wars, including corruption in politics, including the devastation of the earth. So what I propose is what I call a credit system. Basically, it works the same way as the old way, except the money comes from a sovereign government. And once the project is built, for that same bridge, once the $10 billion is put into the system, there's no need to pay it back. The value for the currency is there. Again, this is a system that respects the value of the human contribution. And remember, I mentioned something right at the beginning about, saving humanity. And really, this is how it would do that. Humanity could give back to the earth. Humanity can give back to itself and free itself. The debt that we are held to, our national debt, as far as I'm concerned, does not belong to us. It was fraudulently placed upon us, and it needs to go back to the people who created the debt, which is the bankers themselves. So let them have it. And let's take our money, let's take our wealth, our newfound wealth, and let's put it into technology, into space exploration. I mean, think about all the things that we put our money into now is enriching humanity instead of stealing from it. Our kids have a future, and the future is bright. It's really bright when you look at this system. What we're doing is ridiculous. I do think that the possibilities are endless, and I think that once we wrap our mind around this concept, it will liberate your mind. And really, all I'm asking is that you give it some thought and send me your thoughts, whether you think it will work or why you don't think it will. I've given it a lot of thought, and I think it will work.